What's up, everybody? Welcome to Hammerdown Motorsports. Today in the Hammerdown Motorsports shop we have our F350 Platinum, and today we've just gone over, well, a little bit over, but 3,000 miles are now on the truck, and it's time to get rid of that factory oil, get our new filter, get our new oil in, and we also have something for the rear. Yes, we are changing our rear fluid already at 3,000 miles. So we're gonna have a look at what that looks like after 3,000 miles. And we have something from Banks we're gonna be adding to the back. That's kind of why we're doing this whole thing, but it's gonna look awesome, so definitely stay tuned. So the truck is cold. It's been sitting for a couple of weeks at least. Diesel prices are insane. This is probably one of the most expensive cold starts I've ever done on this truck. But we're gonna take it out, warm up the engine oil, warm up the rear end oil, just so everything flows out nicely. Hit that, hit that. Oh yes, 6.7 liters of glory. All right, so now that the truck is nicely warmed up, we'll get it over onto the lift. And we'll give it a little bit of a cool down time because I don't want to scorch and burn myself. That was always the worst thing when I was working at dealerships, having to do oil changes on something that just came off the highway. But we just want to get everything nicely warmed up and all of that. We'll get this thing drained out and get our fresh fluids installed on our new truck. All right, so it's been about an hour and a half. Let the truck sit and just kind of cool down, but I can still feel it's a little bit warm in the front. So this is like the ideal temperature, which you usually don't get to do if you're working in a shop. It's either the car's cold from sitting outside or it's screaming hot from coming off the highway. But in an ideal world, which is what we've created here, I can let it sit a little while and let it be warm but not super hot. So let's get this thing in the air and get it drained out. So now for what we're putting on the rear end of the truck, you can see we have a Banks box here. You can see on the tape it says eat, sleep, race, and just the marketing on all this stuff is really cool. You open up the box and it says prepare to smile, and then we come over here and this is the box that's sitting inside. You see the Banks engineering differential cover, because this is going to be an absolute jewel on the back of the truck. Open here in case you didn't know, this is where the hole is. Open this guy up, and obviously I've already unwrapped this because I had to check it out, but you can see we do have our Banks differential cover with all of our cooling fins and everything inside here. You can see how on this diff cover they actually have all of the runners and everything for the oil to get up over the pinion and all of that, and everything is made to circulate that oil within the differential the way it's supposed to be, which is going to be a whole lot better than factory. And I've seen on some of their videos they do show some of the other aftermarkets not using the direction of oil correctly. They have some lines that are going across which actually impede that oil getting where it needs to be, so you think you're getting a nice differential cover. It looks good on the back of your truck, but it's not actually functioning the way it should. This one, it actually is bigger. If you can see down here, it's bigger than the actual footprint of what's actually going onto your differential housing, and then this is actually going to catch the air and push it up the back of the cover. So now, especially when you're towing, you're going to have really good direction of oil, lubrication, all of that, but you're also going to get that air cooling just like a motorcycle would, has the cooling fins around the engine. But with this, the air is going to go through up the back of the cover and cool that oil in your differential, especially if you're in a hot area or you're really working that differential, towing big trailers and equipment and all of that. This is definitely going to help you out a whole lot with keeping that oil cool, which is going to help it last a lot longer, and it's also going to keep all your components in the back lasting a very long time. Not to mention, I mean, if you can see, we do have our O-ring in here, so there's no more RTV or anything, no gaskets. This actually fits into a machined groove, and when you put this in, because I already put this in, this doesn't come like that, it comes in a bag. I let it kind of sit for a little while just to kind of take its shape, and you can put this in and have a little loop sticking up, so don't worry about that. If you get that, which I did, you just kind of lift it up and just let it settle, let it find its happy place, and it does fit. You just gotta fiddle with it a little bit. So let's flip this guy over and reveal the other side. And as you can see, this looks absolutely awesome. It's gonna look so much better when it's on the truck, especially
especially with the new lighting we have under the truck. So if you haven't seen that video, definitely check that one out as well. You can get this in a couple of different variations. For me, I got it with the machined back just so it can throw a little bit of light. And I mean, I did have a thought maybe I was going to get the all black one just because of corrosion and whatnot. If you get salt on here, you might get a little bit of oxidization, but I feel I'm going to keep this clean enough that this is going to stay nice. The one with all black just has banks machined, or you can get it in a raw form as well if you want to paint it or powder coat it your own way. But this is the way that I wanted to go. And also you can see we do have a sight glass as well, which is going to allow us to see what color our oil is, if there's an issue going on, or if it's time to change it, you're going to be able to see that there. So our oil's been draining for a little while. Here is our new filter. You can see the part number there. And we're gonna actually prime this guy up with some fresh oil from our new jugs. And we'll get this thing spun on, get our drain plug in, and get our new oil in the engine. All right, so we have all of our oil in the truck. I have my drain plug put back in, nice and snug, but not over snug because you don't want to strip out those threads, and that's a very common thing. People go crazy and put a snipe on there and try to over tighten that thing like crazy, and you don't need to do that. So just kind of feel how it was when it came off, and that's what you want to do to put it back on. Same with the filter, it doesn't have to be crazy. I just tighten it up and then just kind of give it a little bit more with our wrench tool, but you don't want to go crazy. You don't want to be denting filters or anything like that. Don't go crazy. Remember how it came off. That's how it's got to go back on. Obviously this was done at the factory, so this is the way it should be done, hopefully. And then they say 13 quarts online, and I checked with A-Rod. He is our Super Duty go-to guy on this, and he's been very helpful. So big thanks to A-Rod for his advice throughout this entire process. But he puts 14 quarts in his truck to take it right up to the top of those cross hatches on your dipstick. If you find you put 13 in, it's gonna be right in the middle, but we're gonna go a little bit more, get it right to the top, and that's what he recommended. That's what I'm going with. So now we have our rock lights on, and well, fender lights are on the same switch, so they're on too. And now we're gonna get this thing lifted up. We're gonna have some nice lighting on our differential so we can put our new piece of jewelry on the back here from Banks. All right, so now we have our 13 millimeter 12 point on our brand new Milwaukee fuel. This is our stubby 3/8, and well, I paid full price for it because I unfortunately do not have a Milwaukee sponsorship, but one day a guy can dream, right? So let's get our bolts removed. Basically what you want to do is, I believe one of the bottom ones here is going to be our drain plug. So what we probably will end up doing is take our 3/8 here, and we will open that up just to kind of give it some air so it can suck in the air, and then obviously knock our oil out the bottom without having it go glug, glug, glug and all that, make a big mess. So let's do that first. Let's open that up, and then we can take out our drain plug. Once oil is drained, we're actually going to put it in this container right here, which is one of our oil jugs from earlier, and we can see if there's any kind of debris or anything that's going to come out of there. And we're going to have to remove this bracket or move it up out of the way just so we can get everything in place, and we'll clean off our gasket and we should be good to go. So first of all, let's see if this thing will actually take one of these bolts off. Oh yeah, like nothing. So I assume our middle one is going to be our drain plug because no oil came out of that. Yep, that is the one. So, and you can see it does have a little tiny bit of color to it. Not gonna lie, we'll have a little closer look at this once everything is drained out. There's a little bit of sealant on this bolt. You can see we're not reusing these bolts, but there is some, I believe there's some blue Loctite or sealant that is in with our Banks kit. So we'll visit that when the time comes, but let's get this plug out, allow that oil to drain, and we'll be ready to get this completely removed. Next up, we're gonna grab a putty knife or a scraper, something substantial that you can give a little tap to. I've got my dead blow hammer, and generally I don't go directly from the bottom, because if you ever make a groove or something like that, that's going to be more prone to leaking because your oil level is about here by our fill. So I usually start somewhere up at the top, just as a general rule. I mean, we're not reusing this cover, it really doesn't matter, but just something to think about. Our top two bolts still in place, just so this whole thing doesn't fall off. Gives us a little bit more of a controlled drainage. Try to catch most of this oil. It does look fairly dirty, so that's, I mean, I don't know. I would think for 3,000 miles and no towing,
it would be pretty much clear like brand new, but we'll have a look at it here in a minute. Now we're gonna let this drain down a little bit more and then work on getting all of this sealant that they have here. It doesn't really look like a gasket, it looks more like an RTV on this. But we're gonna get all that cleaned up. You just kind of want to place a clean rag inside here, so when you're getting all that off, you don't have any pieces falling into your differential or the nest or any of that. So we'll get that covered up, keep it nice and clean, get this surface on the outside here cleaned up, and we're ready to install our new cover. All right, so now that we have our surface nicely cleaned up, everything is nice and dry. I took a little brake clean on a rag just to make sure there's no oil or anything in between our surfaces, but we're not using a gasket. We're using an O-ring, so that's gonna work a whole lot better. You do have a little bit of protrusion there. It's gonna give us our seal. And for me, it doesn't say so in the instructions, but I put a little bit of 111 on this. This is a high vacuum grease, and I've been using it on O-rings forever, and it's always been a good thing just to kind of keep everything lubricated from drying out from heat and all that stuff. So that's just for me, but I mean, if you guys want to do that, you can too. So now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna put my top bolt in, and very carefully, now you're gonna do your one last check and make sure you do not have any rags or anything inside there. So yeah, make sure everything is clear, make sure everything is clean, dry, free of oil, and we're ready to install our brand new cover. So now, as you can see, we do have our beautiful cover in place. Everything is just loosely put in here. Everything just kind of run up, except for our last bolt, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, which comes with the kit, which is a little bit of blue Loctite. So we're going to seal up these threads on this bolt for that bottom bolt that, if you guys remember, was the drain for our factory cover. So we're gonna seal that up so we don't have any leaks happening. We'll get that one in there, and then we'll go around, and just like you would on a wheel, just kind of cross pattern 25 foot-pounds each bolt, and we're ready to put some oil in this thing. So here we have our bolt. Let's get this good stuff on here. And one thing I gotta say about Loctite is, for as expensive as it is, at least it smells good. Smells like you could eat it, but I wouldn't recommend it. All right, so we got that good stuff all over our threads here. Make sure we get it all. And we'll get that put in there. We're ready to torque it up. So now we have all of our bolts in loosely, and we have our sealant on the bottom one for the drain plug. Now we have our torque wrench set up to 25 foot-pounds. Now we can go around in a cross pattern and get all of these nicely torqued up. So once you have all your bolts torqued in your cross pattern, what I do is I just go around to all of them, just kind of next to each other, just to check them, make sure that we have all of them torqued, we didn't miss any, and we're all good to go as far as that is. Now we're ready to put some oil in this thing. So now that I've been able to have a look at the differential cover, and during this installation process, admire some of the features and all the things that they thought of when they put this together, I'm very impressed with it. There's almost nothing they didn't think of. The only thing that I could think of that they may have done is for the build of material number, if there was a place to put this. Now, if they were to just take a little bit off over here, this would probably go onto these two bolts, but it's just enough that it's a little bit off. You could trim this and just kind of stick it behind that bolt, but I'm just gonna save this. I mean, it doesn't need to be there. It's probably a little cleaner with it not being there, but I mean, I don't know if you'd really see it or not, but it is nice to keep this in a safe place. Maybe if they had some sort of place to put this, that's really the only thing I can think of. But we do have our sight glass. We do have a drain plug, which is a different size than the bolts, so you don't mix it up. And then we do have our fill plug, which has a magnet on it. Very, very happy to see that. We also have an O-ring on there as well, so it'll seal nicely, and that's serviceable. If you had to replace that, I'm sure you could get that from them. But yeah, if you're doing your fluid changes, or if you just want to check your fluid to see if there's any filings on there at all, if there's an abnormal amount of metal in the oil, then you know you got something going on inside your differential. But this will help you out a whole lot, because every time there is a little bit of metal in there, it's going to collect here. It's not going to continue going through your differential and causing more wear, which causes more metal, which lowers the life of your differentials. So this, in a sense, will save you a whole lot of money down the road if it functions exactly the way I think it will.
you should have no trouble with this. You can monitor everything, you can collect your filings. It looks awesome, it's gonna cool better, and just overall, just better in every single way possible than the stamped one that you get from the factory. And before anybody says anything, yes, we do have a magnetic plug on our factory plug for our factory cover as well. So if you are doing maintenance on your truck, you might want to check this as well and see if you have a whole lot of stuff on it. This one has just your break-in material. It's really just pretty much normal. So always something to keep an eye on. And as for our oil, we spared no expense. We got the AMSOIL Severe Gear. This is good for towing, terrain, and high temperature. It is the 75W140 full synthetic. And actually, when you order this cover, you can order this oil to go with it. So all you gotta do is cut the tip off so you're ready to fill up your differential and take off the freshness seal underneath it. And we'll get this fluid in here, hopefully with no spills. And now, according to the instructions, it says the sight glass should be halfway full when all of your fluid is in, but you want to make sure that you're on a flat surface because that will change at different angles. But another look at our sight glass, you can see how clear that oil is. Mind you, that's brand new, but let's go look at our 3,000 mile oil. And I worked on a lot of differentials, and this, well, it doesn't look so clean. I mean, it's not terrible, let's be honest, but you can see it definitely has some color to it. And I really didn't tow much at all. I towed that pontoon boat over there about 20 miles. That was about it. And that shouldn't be a workout for anything because I tow that with the Rebel, which is a 1/2 ton. So, I mean, maybe it's just the way that oil is. Maybe it gets a little bit of color. Maybe you should be checking it. I'm not entirely sure. But I mean, yeah, it's not super bad, but it does have some color to it, more than I would have necessarily expected from 3,000 miles. So there you have it, everybody. We got our brand new Banks differential cover. Keep that diff oil nice and cool. Our brand new AMSOIL full synthetic Severe Gear in the back now. So now when we want to tow some big trailers, we're not going to have any issues with that fluid lasting a very long time. Also, we have our 6.7 liter engine with this brand new oil, our factory filter. Everything is good to go as far as that is. And 3,000 miles doesn't seem like a whole lot of time, but our oil is pretty dirty. I can still smell it from the container over here. So you definitely don't want to let that go too long. Make sure you keep up on your maintenance. You'll have your truck running for a very long time. But if you guys can hear, the rain is coming. Yes, it is spring, so you never know when it's going to start pouring. That's just kind of how it goes. And well, with the metal roof, we have to deal with it as it comes. And if you guys made it this far in the video, definitely drop maintenance down in the description below or anything you'd like to say. If you have any comments about the diff cover or how long you let your maintenance go on your engine, definitely drop that in the comments as well. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And as always, keep that hammer down. So what do you think about that, boss hog?